Welcome back to Meghan and Harry Tales. I'm your host, Kelly, and today we're pulling back the curtain on some of the most toxic narratives that keep swirling around the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Specifically, we're going to tackle the latest from Ingrid Seward over at The Sun. Yes, The Sun, which at this point feels less like a legitimate publication and more like a tabloid factory bent on stirring the pot. What's the latest controversy, you ask? According to Ingrid, Prince Harry might be forgiven for all the damage he's caused the royal family. But Meghan? Nope, Meghan will never be forgiven. Ingrid Seward claims that Prince Harry could be forgiven for all the things he's done. But Meghan? Oh no, she will never be forgiven. And why? Because Meghan's the real disruptor. Let's be real. What they're really mad about is that Meghan is a black American woman who took a look at the so-called pinnacle of British society, all the royal trappings, the gilded cage, and said, "No thanks, I'm out." She saw through the fantasy and walked away. And guess what? She didn't walk away alone. She took with her the most charismatic prince this generation has ever seen. Now, Ingrid and the rest of the Royalists can't, or won't, say it outright. But this is what's truly bothering them. They can't admit that what stings the most isn't some superficial separation between Harry and Meghan, or whatever nonsense they're trying to spin today. No, what bothers them is that Meghan rejected the fairy tale they all hold so dear. She rejected the system that was supposed to be her crowning achievement, and by doing so she shook their entire worldview. And that, my friends, is why Meghan will never be forgiven. Not because of anything she's done wrong, but because she refused to play their game. And you know what? Good for her. Meghan's actions have shown more courage, self-worth and clarity than anyone stuck in the royal hamster wheel. She doesn't need their approval or their gilded cage. She's doing just fine on her own terms, whether she's at an LA children's hospital, spending time with people who actually matter, or standing side by side with Harry, building their own legacy. But Seward goes further, doesn't she? She claims that Harry can be forgiven despite him being the one who wrote Spare, a book that allegedly damaged the monarchy. Yet somehow Meghan, the woman who barely spoke on these issues publicly, is still the scapegoat. Let's call it what it is: hypocrisy. They want to forgive Harry because deep down they think they can still pull him back into the fold. But Meghan? Oh no, she's too much of a threat, too powerful, too independent, and too unapologetically herself. They are still mad because she left them, and they know she's never coming back. Meghan didn't just walk away from the palace, she walked away from everything they think makes someone worthy, their traditions, their hierarchy, their toxic elitism, and they hate that they can't control her. Ingrid also tries to stir up talk about Meghan and Harry going separate ways, which we all know is just another desperate attempt to push the false narrative of a separation. But here's the kicker. Even Seward admits that members of the royal family constantly do things separately, because that's what happens in any family. It's normal. So why is it an issue when Meghan and Harry do it? What really gets under the skin of people like Ingrid Seward isn't just that Meghan left the royal family, but how she left. Meghan rejected the whole system, the gilded cage, the title, the status, and said, "I'm done." And that's something the monarchy, and those loyal to it, simply can't forgive. Let's be real. The British monarchy is built on a very specific set of ideals. For women, that often means playing a very traditional, very subservient role. They are expected to support their husbands, to smile, to wave, to look beautiful, and to never patience that come with it. She rejected the idea that she should be grateful for her royal status, that she should conform to their norms, that she should stay silent in the face of abuse. Meghan said, "No more," and the British establishment simply can't handle it. This rejection of the monarchy's ideals is why Meghan has been villainized to such an extreme degree. It's not about what she did or didn't do, it's about what she represents. Meghan represents a new kind of woman, one who refuses to be defined by anyone else's expectations. And that's what scares them. At the end of the day, the royals and their loyalists are desperate to make the Sussexes look bad, while conveniently ignoring their own problems, particularly the visible issues in other royal marriages. So don't be fooled by the noise. Meghan and Harry are thriving, and that's what truly bothers people like Ingrid Seward. As we come to the end of today's episode, there's one thing that becomes crystal clear. The narrative around Meghan Markle is not really about what she's done or even what she represents in the conventional sense. It's about the fact that she defied expectations. Expectations of the British establishment, the media, and even the monarchy itself. Let's break it down. Meghan Markle didn't just marry into one of the most powerful families in the world. She became part of a system that has, for centuries, thrived on maintaining a very rigid social hierarchy. A system where race, class, and tradition are still deeply intertwined. When Meghan, a self-made Black American woman, walked into that system, she was seen as an anomaly. She didn't fit into their narrow mold of what a royal should be, and from day one, the British press made sure she knew it. But here's the thing, she didn't conform, and that's exactly why she's been villainized. Ingrid Seward and others like her can try to spin the story however they want. They can claim Harry might be forgiven, that Meghan never will. But what they're really saying is that Meghan will never be forgiven for doing something no one else has dared to do. She walked away. She rejected a system built on superficial status and privilege, one that too often hides its toxicity behind a golden facade. And that is what truly bothers them. It's not that Meghan posed for cameras at an event, or that she and Harry have occasionally taken different paths in their public appearances. That's a distraction. The real issue is that Meghan turned her back on something that was supposed to be the ultimate prize. She saw the gilded cage for what it was, a cage, and she left with her husband, the charming prince, by her side. And here's where the media's obsession becomes even more transparent. 5 years on, they can't let it go. Royal commentators like Seward continue to paint Meghan as the villain, as if their collective psychosis around her is somehow justified. But in reality, it all comes down to the fact that they are unwilling to face the truth. They are still mad because Meghan didn't beg for their approval, she didn't stay to endure the relentless abuse, and she didn't play by their rules. Instead, Meghan and Harry charted their own course, building a life that works for them, far from the prying eyes and suffocating demands of royal life. They've not only survived, they've thrived, and that's something the establishment simply can't forgive. But the truth is, Meghan doesn't need their forgiveness. She never did. In today's episode, we've unpacked the toxic narratives that still swirl around Meghan Markle. We've exposed the hypocrisy in royal commentary, the unspoken racism, and the fear of a powerful woman who refused to be silenced. And most importantly, we've reclaimed the narrative. Meghan and Harry are more than the tabloid headlines, more than the critics' warped opinions. They are two individuals who, against all odds, chose each other, chose love, and chose freedom. And no amount of media spin will ever change that. So to Ingrid Seward and all the other so-called royal experts out there still clinging to outdated narratives, maybe it's time to admit what really upsets you. It's not that Meghan can't be forgiven, it's that Meghan doesn't need your forgiveness at all. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Meghan and Harry Tales. As always, we'll continue to shine a light on the truth, while celebrating the courage and resilience of the Sussexes. Be sure to tune in next time as we dive into more stories, more insights, and more of what the tabloids are afraid to tell you. Until then, remember to stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay kind.